Welcome back. All right, so news of the day video for all you fine people on your Sunday. It's a rainy day here. Hopefully it's nice where you are, not like exceedingly hot or, in today's case here, wet enough that you're looking for somebody building a really big boat. Anyways, here's the news items that I'll be discussing for today. So things have been relatively quiet. If you're a Flames fan, not much to report on the Gaudreau front. Apparently there's an offer out there that is rumored to be $9.5 million a year over 8 years. That's at least the rumor that I read. But again, we'll see whether or not he signs. For anybody wondering, this is Ken Riggett. This is Jules Gilbert. That's Andrew Raycroft. Patrick Roy here. And of course, the Henrik Sedin here. I think that's Bo Horvat in the background. And that's Carey Price on that one. So, anyways, all right. So just throwing that out there. And hey, let's go ahead and jump right in with talking about the Carolina Hurricanes. First off, Vinny Trocheck is looking like he's hitting the market. Not a huge surprise, but I really was hoping that Carolina would hold on to him. I think he's a really good fit for the Canes. Wherever he goes, I think he'll perform well. However, the interesting thing is that Elliot Friedman's reporting that Tony DeAngelo is allowed to shop himself around. So apparently they're not close on a contract, or at least not close enough where they feel like they could just, negotiate exclusively. So teams are allowed to say, hey, I'll give you $3 million, $4 million. He's a restricted free agent. He has arbitration rights. So even if a team signed him for $4 million a year, then Carolina would have the right to match or whatever. There is the possibility that a team comes in with an offer that Carolina wouldn't match, and then maybe Carolina trades his rights. So we'll see what happens there. For DeAngelo, of course, it was a good fit for him in Carolina. It would be interesting if Carolina loses Trocheck and DeAngelo. Who do they replace them with? Do you go from within, or do you look on the market? So it's going to be a crazy next couple of weeks. I kind of took advantage of what was a relatively quiet day yesterday, because you got to take advantage of a quiet day here and there. But it's going to get pretty crazy. We've got the draft, and then you've got free agency. So I'm well aware that the quiet is not going to last. It is the calm before the storm. All right. Next up is Jakob Chychrun. I have said all along, I don't think Arizona should be trading Chychrun. He's on a very reasonable contract. He's a young defenseman. He had an off season last year. Not a very good year for him by his standards last year, but I know the talent's still there. And now Arizona's GM coming out and saying he's not going to move Chychrun unless somebody gives him an absolutely fantastic offer that he can't refuse. It sounds about right. That's about where they should be with Chychrun. Because again, decent contract, the length is fine, and he's a young player. So it's not one of those situations where it feels like, well, you need to trade him because by the time that your team's good, he's going to be 40 years old. That's not really... There are some who might think it'll take that long for Arizona to get good, but if you're the Coyotes, you likely don't want it to take that long. And hey, you've got the Space Coyote jersey here and really nice Coyotes logo they've brought back there. So it's in place, right? You've got the good look, and then it's just a matter of the team. That's the harder... Is that the harder? That's probably not the harder part. But anyways, I do wish the Coyotes the best, and all joking aside, Chychrun's an excellent defenseman, and I would not trade him personally if I was the Coyotes. So all that talk, all that speculation, all of that, what he might be worth and who might get him, and now Arizona's saying, nah, we're good. We're gonna keep him. So good decision by the Coyotes. Patrick Laine. So we've talked about Laine a few times. We're going to talk about him again here. It'll probably be relatively quick with talking about Laine because there hasn't been significant progress in negotiations. Now, they're still seen as amicable, so this is not a situation where he feels like he's being insulted or Columbus feels like he's not being reasonable. Nothing like that. But this is the thing with free agency, right? When a guy's contract is up, the guy can say, I want to stay here. The GM can say, I want to keep him. But then they sit down and talk dollars and cents, and they may not see that same number. And it can be difficult for that gap to be bridged. I talked about it yesterday. $1 million a year doesn't sound like a lot. And again, people said, oh no, it's a lot in NHL standards. My point being in that video, if $1 million's the difference, you should be able to meet in the middle. That was the only point I was trying to make, which was they should be able to meet in the middle or come up with some kind of compromise. Maybe he takes the lower value, but you throw in a no trade clause, right? So something like that where you can sit down, negotiate it, and make sure that they feel they get their certainty and you get your cap certainty as well. Because players want to have that. They want the financial success, and they also want to have that job security. And for for owners and for GMs, they want to make sure they have the cap certainty and that they have a reliable roster. So it's about trying to bridge that gap. And with Laine and the Columbus Blue Jackets, that's where we're at. So they'll have to throw him the qualifying offer if they don't negotiate. But remember, the qualifying offer is just basically to retain his rights. They can still sit down, negotiate a contract, and like Boeser did in Vancouver, end up with a lower cap hit than what the qualifying offer would have given him. So hopefully it works out, because Laine had a decent year in Columbus. If he'd played all 82 games, I think he would have got more attention than what he did. But again, for Laine, I thought it was a decent year, and hopefully they get this straightened out. Definitely Jarmo Kekalainen wants to straighten it out. And so again, one thing that I mentioned a lot at this time of year too is that sometimes the most friendly of negotiations can turn out with a guy leaving as a UFA, and at other times where it seems like it's hotly contested, I don't know what's going to happen, and then they sign anyways at the last minute. So I make no assumptions of who will or won't sign and when. It's an entertaining time of year. It's an entertaining time of year for hockey fans, and I'm glad we're there, and I'm glad I get to report on it. Brock Boeser. So Boeser, when the Canucks signed him, I saw a few people saying, well, now they can trade him. They're not going to trade him. I'd be very surprised if they traded him. So they've talked about bringing him back. And Boeser's saying all the right things. Now, I think Boeser's production isn't awful. I think he's good. I think he's a good goal scorer. There have been times where I've talked about how I think he has one of the best shots the Canucks have had in ages. I think it's phenomenal. And I would think back to like Naslund in his prime. I think there's the potential there with Boeser. Now, the consistency's been an issue. He's had issues with injuries over his career as well. So I don't have rose-colored glasses with that. And I know his points total was a little bit below what might have been expected of him. But I think Boeser's still a very good player. I'm looking forward to seeing how this team performs under Bruce Boudreau. And the fact that he's admitting, yeah, no, I'm not happy with how last season went, and I want things to improve this year. That's what you want to hear out of a player, is some feeling of, I know that part of what happened this year is on me. And that's fine. It's fine to say, team missed the playoffs and I should have been better. So I have no doubt that Boeser can have a really good year next year. And I also have very little doubt that he's going to remain with the Canucks at least through this year. We can get it, and I'm sure because of the way that the rumor mill works, they'll be back in rumors probably as soon as he goes through some kind of a slump. But that's how that works. Speaking of which, Philippe Myers. So Philippe Myers being traded to the Tampa Bay Lightning. The first question being asked of Julien Brisebois was, so buyout? And he's saying no. He likes Myers. He thinks he's a good defenseman. They plan to keep him around. And so it doesn't look like Myers is going to have a buyout. They didn't ask with mismatch, but it's not a huge deal. Minor league talent. 860-some thousand, right, for his cap hit. So, yeah, it looks like Myers, there's not going to be a buyout there. Nobody went on waivers today, so Tennyson cleared waivers as expected. He's getting bought out. Nobody on waivers today. Buyout season has started to look like what UFA season is as well, and sometimes the trade deadline, where we expect some fireworks we don't always see. And so with buyouts, it's possible we see a lot fewer buyouts because it doesn't fix all your problems. Buying out a contract does not fix all your problems. Sometimes it creates new ones. So, yeah, we may not see guys get bought out that we're expecting. Speaking of which, though, we're in free agent season, and free agents are going to get overpaid, and there's conversations about who's going to get overpaid this summer. Now, the last couple of years, most contracts have been very reasonable. There's been a few that are iffy that might raise eyebrows, but in general, contracts have been really reasonable because of the flat cap. Now that we see the cap going up by $1 million, and now that, basically word is that maybe 2 years after this coming season, we could see the cap really going up. We could see some overpayments. We could see GMs overpaying for guys and saying, well, we're going to overpay for this guy because we really believe the cap's going to go through the roof in a couple years' time, and it'll be fine. We'll be fine between now and then. So it'll be interesting to see who gets overpaid and what that payment ends up looking like. I'm not getting into it. But once we get into unrestricted free agency and those contracts are signed, I will have no problem saying, I think this might be a little high, or I think this is a really good deal for said player and team. So let me know your thoughts. Who do you think gets overpaid this summer? Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. If you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.